there, I'm Steve, and welcome to Jamsinentertainment, and welcome to the conversation. I know it's been a while since the last podcast with my former Muay Thai instructor, crew Eric. I think it's been about a month. I need to find more guests and start having Saturday's podcast day again. I am joined by Austin and Kurt, and we are all Star Wars nerds here, and we are very excited about the latest season of The Mandalorian. How's it going, guys?
Pretty well, thanks. How about you?
Good. All right, Kurt, we'll start with you. What, thoughts on The Mandalorian in general, and then we can get into the season 2.
All right, so I'll admit I'm one of those guys who's not as big a fan of the sequel trilogy as I was, the originals or the prequels when they came out. I will say that after seeing something like Season 7 of the Clone Wars, the announcement of things like Bad Batch and all that kind of material, maybe there's some kind of regeneration coming through for the Star Wars universe. But I know that would not have actually happened without The Mandalorian Season 1. It's just kind of funny. I remember watching the first thing and being like, this is incredible, this is insane, it's perfectly like a space western, this is exactly what we needed. I don't know. It's a show I think that goes across all demographics. My girlfriend, for example, she is not a Star Wars person at all. But we have, of course, the cutest little bit player in the world, in terms of Grogu, and because of that, now she's a committed Star Wars individual. So definitely the shot in the arm I think that we very much needed in the universe, and I think season 2 just really continued that as well.
Especially the last episode.
Oh, definitely, and we'll get to that I'm sure in just a minute here, but just absolutely incredible material overall.
Now, I'm curious, is The Mandalorian her introduction to Star Wars, or did you make her watch the other ones? Like a good boyfriend.
She's been trained in 4, 5, and 6, 30 minutes into episode 1 and fell asleep.
Oh, God.
Well, I won't say that I fell asleep during episode 1 when I first saw it, but I think at that point I was about 12, and I was looking to see Darth Maul, so I wasn't going to sleep. There was no way.
Yeah.
So outside of that, though, sequel trilogy, no, she hasn't done. She's seen the stuff at Disney, and that's about it. So, yeah.
And Austin, what are your thoughts on The Mandalorian first season and the second season?
So with the first season, I was very excited to see that we finally get something that's not canon. It's more closer to Legends. Major respect to that. And so much hidden gems inside that, in that first season. Granted, they played it safe, but in the second season, they went all out. They brought back characters we never thought possible. We never thought it would be possible to have an Ahsoka. We never thought it possible to have Bo-Katan. No one even considered that they would even bring in Luke Skywalker. So, amazing. And I know I didn't mention Boba Fett because he's his own thing. Bringing Tamara Morrison to play the character was priceless. Mm-hmm. And now he's going to get his own book now. He's going to get his own series.
I think they're going to do a mini-series from what I heard. It's going to be called The Book of Fett or something like that. It's going to be 4 episodes.
Well, think about it. The whole idea of a constant series going on, you can technically go on forever, but eventually the story's going to run stale or something's going to happen in that aspect. What they're doing here is they're making it like a book, a proper book, proper length. For me, it takes about 15 hours for a typical Star Wars book to be read. So in here, it makes perfect sense with how much time they've allotted for each character. You had brought up that your girlfriend or wife?
Girlfriend.
Had not seen the sequel trilogy.
No. She's been spared. She's been spared from that. And we're going to keep it that way. Because
around 2024, there's going to be a re-release of the last 2 episodes cut by George Lucas.
What? Are they serious?
Yeah.
No, hopefully that's a rumor. I'd much rather they try to retcon or try to make some kind of sense of the sequel trilogy than just have Lucas recut it. I don't know if that would work. It's too much of a train wreck already.
There is so much content Kathy Kennedy pulled out of both episodes that if it was included, we would have a completely different view on this trilogy.
Well, if you're going to go that far, why not do it to all three of them?
Well, because we have to watch A New Hope 3 times. That's how it works.
It was those two that most people had a lot of problems with. It was the first one that people didn't have as many problems with.
I would say speak for yourself on that one. And I, of course, can't speak for everybody, but I will say that for me was an episode that I recall seeing in the theaters, came out of the theaters, and I was like, I just watched episode 4 again.
I agree with that.
I also agree, but I mean, I was still excited because Star Wars was back in theaters. On my way to see that one, my brother and I took separate vehicles for some reason. And I was listening to the Star Wars soundtrack in my car, and I was physically rocking my car when I was at the red light. I was so excited.
but justifiably. But then it was kind of like, let's paint by numbers. It wasn't like Rogue One, where, yes, they took the legend stories, and I'm sure, Austin, you know well about this, with the Han Solo trilogy, and getting rid of Bria Theron and now bringing in someone else, Jane Erso. We were getting rid of, nameless Alliance Commando #1 and bringing in now Cassian. We had a solid story. It was a story that took something that was respected in Legends. And I remember going into being like, this is not how this movie should have gone. Like, coming out of it being like, it's not how this movie in my mind should have gone, but it's amazing. Honestly, in my adulthood, and I'm not going to say how long that is, in my adulthood, I think that is probably the Star Wars movie I watched the most. Because it's self-contained, like you said, it's maybe not 15 hours as a book, but you can see yourself sitting down and having the highs and lows and the peaks and the valleys that the sequel trilogy didn't quite provide. And stuff, too, to kind of bring it back to where we were, also that the Mandalorian did give us.
What legends are you speaking of? Because
I think he's going into novel and comics.
Right, but Rogue One is a retcon of the Dark Forces story. So that's why
no, actually.
So Austin and I think off air had this conversation of like, is there a story about the stealing of the Death Star plans before Dark Forces, besides the little blurb in the opening crawl? And it sounds like there is.
Before Dark Forces, you're referring to the PC game, the first-person shooter from the 90s,
right?
Okay, I just want to make sure, so for people that are...
Well, it's also a graphic novel, too.
Well, there's a graphic novel, too, but there is... there's a Han Solo trilogy, which in my mind would have made a much better Han Solo movie, too, but we don't have the time for that. Wherein the main love interest that carries over basically all three books is, I think, the woman named Bria Theron. And the entire idea actually gets brought up that they're inserted at the end of the third book. She's in there, and one of the last scenes we get from her is the fact that they've stolen the Death Star plans, they've shot it up to the Corvette, up to the Tantive 4, and the last thing, it's like everyone have their sleep pills because they have, no one's expecting to get out of it alive. There's a beautiful little moment where she thinks of Han, and then we cut to black basically at her side, and I mean that's not the entirety of it, but it fits a little bit more in with the actual Legends character going towards Tantive 4, the thing that was brought back in Rogue One. So, because Dark Forces technically was even considered, I think, to be a non-canon game. I might be wrong on that. Even before the Disney buyout.
Huh.
Austin, you definitely have a point. Go for it.
When Disney first took over Star Wars, they made a ton of mistakes, including with Rogue One. Granted, loved Rogue One, but they made mistakes with Rogue One as well as Han Solo's standalone
origin.
But that was all under the direction of Kathy Kennedy.
Well, Solo was... But at least Solo was the first one to pull from Legends. Because Han was an Imperial. And he did leave, and he did free Chewie. So, I mean, at least that's the first one that started to pull from Legends.
I mean, if you want to take the original Legends, put it through the dishwasher, and pull out what's left, sure, yeah, that's what Solo was. No, not my point. My point is that Kathy Kennedy was in charge all the way up until the final movie of the last trilogy. And then she was blatantly told, no more, put off to the side, let's bring Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, and George Lucas as consultant. Perfect, yes. So we'll have those three make something. And now they're making waves. Like, if you're paying attention to the various people on YouTube, like Mike Zero, you'll find that a lot of changes have been made on the back end of Star Wars to make sure that the future of Star Wars is secure. I mean, granted, we had Kathy Kennedy present it at D23, but she's basically a face at this point. She has no rights, literally, to any of the Star Wars content except one show, and that's Acolyte.
But let's be careful when we say about the future is secure. Yes, we have Rogue Squadron. I don't know if you guys know about it, but there was a series of 9 books by Aaron Alston and Kevin Anderson, I think it was, back again, 90s and 2000s, which were fantastic books, legitimately fantastic books. There are books you read once or twice. These are well thumbed. There's creases in all the spines, which for me it just doesn't happen. And I'm concerned about that because will it be Legends? Will it be new canon? What are we going to be going with now? Will we have Imperial Red? We have something completely different. Now, even going up a more established kind of property with a Clone Wars with Bad Batch, yes, Bad Batch is going to be great. It'll be great. It'll be very exciting for a little bit of time. But will it fall into like some A-team kind of wannabe thing from Star Wars, where it's all these guys on the run from the Republic. Order 66 is happening. They're not following the order. Like, can you keep it interesting? I think to herald something like The Mandalorian as being secure in the future, I think that's true to an extent. I would say it's probably more fair to say, though, that it keeps, if we want to be kind of poetic here, it keeps the Force alive for a little bit longer. I mean, and even then, the question is, going even to season 3, how will we manage without Baby Yoda? And that's the important thing, too. I mean, we've just gotten rid of the cutest character in the last 20 years.
I don't think we're getting rid of Baby Yoda.
Okay, let me rephrase. The story at this point, if I had to kind of spitball, and I haven't read the message boards or any kind of rumors whatsoever, yes, we have Mandalore happening. At the same time, there's already theories of what happened to Grogu when Kylo Ren destroyed the Jedi Academy.
I know.
It's one of those things that just kind of like, guys, it doesn't even matter.
I saw the meme.
Yeah, exactly. So, just to say that the future is secure, I'll be tentative. I think the jury's still out on that one. I think that we have a worthy representative of what Star Wars could be for a new generation. Because this let's be fair, this was a show that didn't just cater to folks like us who grew up with the prequels, or folks like our parents who grew up with the originals. They have now a connection across generations, and I think that is even more important to kind of note overall. I mean, you talked about Austin before about bringing back characters never even expected. I cheered to see an IG series Assassin Droid. There's an IG-88 short story back in the mid-90s. Fantastic. Love it. There's an entire options of him showing up here and there. And for a season, I thought to myself, this is freaking amazing. They're bringing back someone that I didn't idolize my childhood because no emotions are kind of hard to replicate. But there was an individual that was beyond kind of fascinating, and we got to see character growth from a robot, which also doesn't happen. So, forgive me, I don't want to temper the enthusiasm. I do think, though, that we definitely have the opportunity to see that go on.
Especially as long as they're those 3 guys, as long as they're given all the creative rights that they have, and they hold on to it, we're looking at really great opportunities coming.
I will accept that, yeah. And I like the fact, and I'm sure you guys can even probably mention this a little bit more than I can, I love the fact that they're opening it up to the point that it's now a community creation. Taika Waititi, we have, Bryce Dallas Howard coming in. I love the fact that every single person in the first season, and even the second season as well, it kind of happened, we each had their chance to kind of bring in something new. Didn't Carl Weathers, I think, actually have an episode in the second season?
Yes, he did. Yes.
So it's not just fan service anymore. It's the idea of saying, you know what, it's no longer it really shouldn't have been from the start. Even when George Lucas said it was a more collaborative effort back in the 70s and 80s, even though he ended up becoming the emperor for a while. But it was an opportunity for different people to leave their mark on it. And we saw some really fascinating styles and some really great, tiny points here and there. I can't tell you how many times I was like, this is a Kurosawa nod. Oh my gosh, this over here, this really is kind of like a Tarantino thing, but we're kind of in the trope, and it was beautiful to watch. So, Steve, I know at the same time, you've been quiet as Austin and I kind of fire back and forth. What was your thoughts on this?
I've been listening. I'm just in love with The Mandalorian, especially. All right, let's get into reactions to Luke's reveal. So, as I'm watching it, I'm enjoying the hell out of the episode, and then you see the X-wing enter the hangar bay. I was like, it's one of those guys that stopped him. It's like, what are they going to do? I was like, Wait a second. Wait. No, it's a Jedi. And then you think it's Ahsoka because it's so from the back and he has the hood on. And it's like, oh, no, it can't be Ahsoka because it doesn't really look like there's horns under that hood. I was like, maybe it's Ezra because, I don't know. And then you see the spark of the green lightsaber and holy crap. Luke fucking Skywalker. I was like a kid in a candy store. I fucking love that.
There was a moment at the same time I was wondering, will they bring back somebody like Kyle Katarn?
Oh, I've been advocating for that for years. Like I've advocated that Rogue One should have been Kyle Katarn's story.
With the moldy crow.
Yes. Because he's basically Han Solo as a Jedi.
I hate his ship.
Thank you.
You hate his ship?
It's hideous. It's too tiny. There's no room to sleep.
But it's perfect for what he does. Him and Jan.
What? Spend hours upon hours in hyperspace? No.
Well, if we really want to be technical, then think about where the Mandalorian sleeps in the former Razor Crest.
He had a trunk.
Or
he had a closet.
The child who was in a tiny little hammock inside like an electrical closet. So let's be fair on that.
But that's a lot better than a cockpit / hallway / ramp.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely, and that's fair. I think at this point, though, let's if we start breaking apart the moldy crow, that whole thing unravels, man. We gotta be careful.
Well, because the closest we've gotten, and this is my theory. I don't know if they actually did this, but my theory is the closest we've gotten to the characters that are Kyle Katarn and Jan Ors are Jyn Orso, Jan Ors. I mean, she's still female, and then you got Cassian Andor, which it's not close to Kyle Katarn, but it's still he even kind of dresses like Kyle Katarn. That's my theory of like how they got the closest to those characters, because it's that team up, and they're stealing the Death Star plans. Even though I would have, I just love Kyle Katarn. I actually have a Kyle Katarn figure. It's really, really cool. I love Kyle Katarn. I'm playing Dark Forces. Well, one of the mini games I'm playing on Twitch is Dark Forces. And I think it was a missed opportunity that, especially when they started out with bringing Star Wars back, they didn't just pull from the source. Like, how cool would it have been? Yeah, like little snippets here and there at the beginning. Now they're pulling out more stuff. Like the Dark Troopers are back. They are canon now. Thank God.
Anti-Thon.
Anti-Thon. What?
The planet that they...
Typhon and Typhon. I thought you were saying Anti-Thon.
That's what I thought too, and I was like, "Fun police? Where?" Like I was really confused by that for a moment, but you're absolutely right. Yeah, Antiphon.
Typhon. Yeah. But how cool would it have been if Kyle Katarn, the Battle Master, was helping Luke with the Academy?
It'd be great to see him there.
About as cool as seeing Sin Trolloc somehow survive Order 66, but I think there's only so much fan service you can give to a community before it starts feeling cliche.
Would it have been fan service or I don't know? Because he basically is a Jedi Han Solo, it might have some people probably would have been like it's and like the people that just know the movies and maybe not get into the video games and stuff, maybe they would have made that comparison like I have as well and be like, what do we need this character for when we have Han? I don't know. I mean, I can see the argument against it, but I love the character too much not to want him in to be canon, and they just kind of shat all over him.
Well, let's not go too far into all the characters they kind of had a nice steaming dump on, because I'll raise you Thrawn right there. But and that's to say that Thrawn is still a fascinating character now, and I love the nod that we have that we might be seeing him come back for probably season 3 antagonist or something like that, or maybe a tie-in down the road for another kind of TV.
Yeah, because Ahsoka's supposed to get her own show, so he might be the villain there.
Thrawn's got to come back with what they've been doing. They've hit 3 different points that tie directly into his story, so they've got to.
Well, to kind of play the pun on the 90s band, and it's better than Ezra, that's true. Now,
They've already figured out the actor for Ezra.
Did they? I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, Aladdin actor.
Oh, actually, that's actually a really fascinating choice. I mean, that really works, too.
Yeah, and the worst part is that when they first came out with the character in the show, we all thought, or my friends and I thought, isn't that Aladdin? Because
he actually gets called he actually gets called a street rat in the first season.
Yeah. So come on, man. Why not Aladdin?
Oh man! For the same reason we can't call the blue people from Avatar Native Americans, because otherwise Space Pocahontas doesn't have the same ring as Avatar. So,
seriously, Kathy Kennedy had her hand in that too.
She did.
Yeah,
that explains a lot.
It does.
No, but so here's my one hope, because we didn't.
Wait! Are you saying you have a new hope?
I do have a new hope.
Continue. I'm sorry. Continue.
That was a good one. But I hope that they start tying up these little loose ends that they've created with the new Star Wars. For instance, what happened to Ezra? They're going to have to answer, since they mentioned Thrawn with the Ahsoka episode. They have to also mention what the fuck happened to Ezra, because I told Austin again off air, I hate the ending to Rebels, the epilogue to Rebels. The epilogue to Rebels is a shitstorm that they need to clean up, because there's too many unanswered questions. Like, where the fuck have these people been throughout the entire Star Wars the original trilogy?
Austin, you said you respectfully, do you say agree or disagree?
Disagree.
Yeah, I kind of have to be on your side, and without even knowing what you're going to say to it. Because, Steve, I mean, if you're looking at the galaxy itself, for so long, we've been on like a dozen planets, right? Across the entirety of, I mean, they released the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy. I mean, we're not talking like. But my point, okay, I was going to say that my point is that having the unanswered questions to a certain degree first gives you that mystique, which I think is even more fascinating than kind of even having this kind of closed loops.
Yeah, I understand the argument that the galaxy is way too big and that they can actually all coexist and not interact with each other. I don't know, from a storyteller perspective, when you don't see them there and you know that they could have played a huge role, or maybe even a small role, I don't know. It's just something that irks me. And the fact that we're possibly going to get answers to these, and they either make a second Han Solo movie, because you don't really need a trilogy.
What happened?
Or they somehow answer what the hell is Darth Maul up to in the universe before he gets killed. Before he gets killed by Obi-Wan.
We know what he's up to. He has the Syndicate.
But the ending to Solo is such a cliffhanger. I mean, you bring in Darth Maul. What did you want to do with him? I just want to know, what did you want to do with him? Does he actually meet Han Solo?
Stop there, please. You continued on to a completely another subject.
Well, it's still tying up loose ends.
It needed to be said over here.
All right.
You absolutely hate the ending to Rebels.
The epilogue.
The epilogue.
The series ending is fine, but the epilogue, yeah.
The epilogue, from what I remember, is a shot of Syndulla and the rest of the crew on the ship, except there's an addition. Kanan's son.
Yeah, they never have actually. I mean, they hinted that they hinted that they could be a love interest, but they never actually.
Do they hit you over the head with a bat?
No. Yeah, they hit you over the head with a bat.
Yeah, but they're okay.
Episode.
All right, but they never. There's never a hint that they actually
consummated the relationship.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, it's a kid show. It's a kid show. There are ways to. I'm not a good enough writer, but there are ways to get that point across without kids knowing. Ren and Stimpy is a perfect example of that because that was a kid's show. That's not a kid's show. No. If we're going to Star Wars this, we're going to Star Wars this. I refer you to something like the prequel trilogy. Do we ever see Padme and Anakin getting it on? They see a kiss, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
that's about it, right?
There's more.
Somehow, in the third episode, she's pregnant, and it's not by the Force.
But there's more implied there than there was between Syndulla and what's his name? I can't remember his name.
Kanan Jarrus.
Yeah, Jarrus. So there's not as much implied. There's more like flirting than there is like an implied actual relationship.
Where you're looking for a relationship or a love story, there isn't going to be one because that's not where they wanted to focus. This is a Star Wars story. We're more interested in their lives growing, not a love story.
Side note, can we just talk about the fact, at least in Rogue One, love story? I was super excited for it. So deliciously stoked. Continue. Go ahead.
You were choppy there.
I said I was so... Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay.
That's all right.
So absolutely stoked about the fact that in Rogue One they didn't waste screen time worrying about some on-screen romance between Cassian and Jyn. Can we just appreciate that and move on? It was a fantastic freaking story.
Yeah, it was a great platonic relationship.
Exactly. So why do you need to get hit over the head with the fact that there is a relationship between the two of them? Again, I won't lie. Rebels, to me, I'm a Clone Wars guy. I know Rebels is a more complete show. I get it. But watching Rebels immediately, I was like, okay, those two are together. They had the old married couple kind of relationship back and forth, just like sniping at each other. But you can tell there's still affection. There's still love.
That's not how... okay, so I just saw the relationship differently because I always saw it as like, will they, won't they kind of thing instead of like, they are together. So I must have read into it wrong then.
I don't know. I think it's one of those things that if you keep it understated, it can be just as effective as them screaming from the top of their lungs, I love you kind of thing.
I know.
Good one.
As Austin looks longingly over at Steve. But you mentioned the Dark Troopers before at the same time. So I know off air we kind of mentioned a little bit that for me the Dark Troopers were a little bit. I would love to see them in their Dark Forces rendition. I know that's not going to be possible given the technology and given the kind of characters at play here, but how do they work for the two of you guys? Because for me, I still read them as sinister, but I read them as basically being upgraded battle droids.
No, that's a good assessment. I mean, they are very sinister. I mean, it helps that they're black with red eyes. That helps out a lot, aesthetically speaking. But it's pretty spot on when you say they're updated battle droids. Because another YouTuber I watched that reviewed he was doing episodes. So he said instead of just continually beating the Mandalorian, why not just break his arm or something? Like, it didn't have the thought process of... It just had the thought process of kill. It wasn't methodical at all.
It was Terminator kill. It was let me throw you around the room instead of taking you up and just going... Which clearly has been shown to be possible.
Right, and if you play the original game, the design without their armor, they look like the Terminator.
Well, yeah.
So it's appropriate.
Shield and sword. Sword and board, yeah. So I guess the question is, while I love to see them, did I appreciate how they were used? Yes and no, because I was looking at it and I was like, okay, they have blaster rifles, big deal. Great, now I have battle droids that can't be shot by with blasters. That's great, don't get me wrong. But to me, I thought that there could have been, as much as it was fun for me to see it, I wanted to see more beyond it. I wanted to see a more mobile threat, something that went beyond, like you said, the Terminator.
Yeah. So you saw them as just like a simple plot device then?
Not plot device, but I think I saw them more as some, I guess, existential threat that would be on stormtroopers. Because after stormtroopers, which thankfully they were actually shown to be technically and tactically competent, even if outmatched.
You're still not be able to hit anything.
Well, there was that, yeah, but it was also just that it was like, okay, now we have guys that can't be shot by blasters. Okay, now we have a plot device to use the Beskar spear. Cool. Well, let's not get into Beskar in the meantime, but like, now we have Beskar spear. Cool. Now we have someone that clearly says he's the only one who could do something about this, until we have, of course, Luke come in.
A proper Jedi.
But to me, it was cool to see them as a nod, and I think that's what you said before by having these characters being brought in, Austin, a little while ago, is we have bits and pieces showing up about across the universe. But I would love to have seen them in the terrifying thing that you see in Dark Forces. Like, I'm not sure how many people out there played it. Austin, have you played Dark Forces and beat? Or
I heard of it.
Okay, so
I haven't played it at all, but I have done tons of research around it.
So, but then Steve, you can definitely speak to this. When you fight a Dark Trooper in Dark Forces, it is a pants-wetting experience. It's one of those things that it's a mini boss beyond mini bosses, and sometimes they stick 2 or 3 of them at you. And at that point, you scream and bellow as you sprint from side to side, back and forth, and hope you can get a shot off. Right?
So I'm currently in the Ice Planet. It's the facility where I can't remember.
It's where they just there, I think.
And I can't remember if it's where I should know this because I just played it last night, but it's the Ice Planet world, and
is it the one where you get the crystals from?
No, you have to blow up the facility because it's one of the manufacturing. I don't know if it's actually building them there or if it's just manufacturing the metal to build them, but it's a manufacturing plant. And I'm pissed because I finished the goddamn mission. I went to the fucking landing point and it wouldn't end. Jan never came and picked me up.
Well, you shouldn't have taken off.
Behind.
And if you go over to Twitch, here I am whoring myself out, Jamsin_E85, and watch not last night's, this is coming out Saturday, but watch Sunday's playthrough. I go into the objections screen like 5 or 6 times just to make sure I did everything. I get to the landing spot and she doesn't show up. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, maybe you guys are on a break.
Sure. Yeah.
And, she left you out in the cold, man. What can I say? So,
literally.
On TV?
Yeah. But it's okay. So you haven't quite gotten to the point like Executor, for example. You're on the Executor at one point.
No, I mean, it's before now, it's been years since I played it, so I don't remember everything from it. I remember I played more its sequels than I played Dark Forces itself. I played the shit out of Jedi Knight.
Oh, no, because that was a classic game of yourself.
Outcast.
Yes, Outcast is a great one, too. But Jedi Knight is amazing because it was the first game that introduced choice to me. I accidentally... So the first time the first time I played it through, I think I accidentally killed some civilians, and I got in choices like, why is he turning evil? It was, like, completely alien to me. Like, why is he turning evil? And then, like, doing some research online at the time, I learned that there's actual choices in the game. I was like, oh, wow, that's cool.
Now, I admittedly, I was a guy who was like, civilians, they might be enemies at some point. Let's get rid of them now. And I was like, oh, wait, I can force choke? Let's go all out, man. And yeah, at that point, it was bad. I embrace the dark side, okay? I am a gray Jedi at best, and we'll leave it at that.
That's also what introduced me to the Gray Jedi, is Kyle Katarn. That's another reason why I'm so pissed they didn't use that character, because he's the perfect person to take the story of Star Wars from black and white to gray.
Am I allowed to show pictures of my phone due to YouTube user and agreement?
You should be able to. I mean, if you even want to screen share on Discord, you could do that too. We get a better shot at it. But I'll go back to reminiscing about playing as Kyle Katarn. So that was the first game I also modded too. I ran around as a half blown up Captain Kirk.
I'm not sure why you think to do that, Steve.
Because I can.
I guess the question here, as Austin kind of perhaps his phone over here, obviously one of the things we've seen pretty consistently throughout the show, and I'm sorry to take away from the Kyle Katarn thing, we can totally go back to the Kyle
that's
Katarn
all right.
story.
You can go wherever you want.
But the question is, to a certain extent, what would be the most enjoyed cameo or guest star from this season, from the second season?
Luke. Despite that the face looked like ass, Luke.
And I did want to come back to that. So, sorry, what was that?
It was a last-minute thing.
Actually, no, it wasn't. They filmed it a year ago with Mark on set.
They did.
This was extremely planned.
He was on set. He gave the various nuances and whatnot, how to act, how to behave. But the actor that they replaced the face with was not Mark Hamill.
Yeah, we know.
Well, there was a comment, actually, and I definitely want to make sure we touch on this, too, that there were, of course, the interweb went crazy about the whole thing. First of all, getting Luke, but second of all, being like, why did you just get Sebastian Stan? Which, right, to be fair, would have been absolutely amazing to have Winter Soldier play Luke Skywalker, but let's not go there right now.
He's basically a clone of Mark Hamill.
Do you have the answer? No, he's not. Do you have the answer?
Yes, he
As to why he didn't do it?
Right.
I forget what he was shooting for. Was he shooting for something else?
It's more than that.
I know there was rumors. I know they wanted to have a Winter Soldier Falcon TV show.
Oh, yeah, no, it's Winter Soldier Falcon, yeah.
But I haven't heard anything new about that, so that shouldn't be stopping them. So why they didn't use him, I don't know.
Look at the media and all the various leaks we've had about Season 2. Are any of them about Luke?
No. They were surprised Luke didn't leak.
There was no physical actor to play Luke. That was one of the things that they did in order to make sure that it didn't get out. If Sebastian Stan was there, it would have been all over the fucking web.
Well, true. Mark Hamill was there and it didn't leak. So I don't know about that.
I don't know how Mark Hamill was there, because you have to remember, it was his voice. It was definitely his voice.
Yeah, they doctored it to make him sound younger.
But you put him in a sound booth away from everyone else on stage. Was he really there?
No, from my understanding, he was physically on set.
I don't know.
So
I don't know how to do it.
Let's take this a step further. I'm going to reference a sequel trilogy, I'm ashamed to say. If a Jedi Master appears on a salt planet and gets shot at by giant walkers who look like gorillas with cannons on their backs, does he really exist? The 8th episode would tell us that he does. But I would argue that he doesn't. So, just big brain thing for a moment. And Austin is either softly considering my thought, or he is going to try to kill me with his mind powers. And I'm hopefully it's a former one. Nope, okay.
He's trying... Wait.
Just had a camera skip for a second.
Say it one more time.
I missed the whole thing.
You missed the whole thing? Good Lord, did I cut out again?
No. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it.
Well, I would argue that too. I mean, if we're talking about the whole tree falling in the forest thing, if a Jedi Master is really on a different planet, is he able to project himself to a different planet with salt and giant gorilla walkers firing blaster cannons at him? Does he really exist? Yeah, I mean, clearly he can. And clearly he does. I mean, so stick him in a sound booth someplace, that's totally fine. That makes perfect sense. I think that's probably the most ingenious way to get around him being on set. So, Austin, you're much better and much more aware of this than I am in terms of the logistics having him on set versus off. Was there any other kind of remark made about that, or was it confirmed that he was in fact in a sound booth?
There was no confirmation on that. It's my theory.
I don't know. All I know is that
I remember watching one video where they said he was physically on set.
I don't know. I know he tweeted about it. That's
I heard that's a statement.
But I haven't heard anything about Sebastian Stan.
Videos trying to get and oh man, my net is so bad I can't even have a proper conversation.
Yeah, you're not even synced up.
Nope.
But haven't heard anything about Sebastian Stan for a while. It's like, I don't know, middle of last year. I think Austin, you told me you showed me an article that they actually are going to get him, but maybe that was just a rumor at this point.
They are definitely going for him. It's another instance where the fans have spoken, and so they see what the fans are seeing. But this isn't going to happen anytime soon.
I wonder if this is going to be like a Luke Skywalker miniseries, which I'm more for. I'm more for a Luke Skywalker. Like I'm more for a miniseries going forward, unless there's actual like story to tell there, than I am for like new series to come out. Because I'm going to touch onto what I think you're afraid of, Kurt, of like basically too much Star Wars.
Too much Skywalker. Let's get away from one bloodline for a change.
See, he got shot on too much in the sequel trilogy that I need my fix of Luke.
He wasn't happy about it, and I don't know. That's. But my point though too is that we have basically 50 white people controlling the fate of the galaxy, ordering everybody else around.
But I can't keep up. Everything's not synced.
All right, are you going to come back, or you're just going to drop out? I think we lost him.
Well,
anyway, thank you for having me.
Honestly, Austin, was great to have you here too. Unfortunately, I think we just kind of caught him at the edge of that. So I guess my point though is that we have what Anakin basically causes the downfall of the Republic. Luke basically brings it back. His sister basically helps bring it back. His nephew basically helps destroy it. And then we have the guy who's fighting against him, which again, let's not get into the Rey nonsense because we don't have the time for that. But
right, no.
It's just one of those things that it was one thing after the other. We have the same like 3 or 4 families, and if this was Romeo and Juliet, that would be fine. But there are literally trillions of beings in this galaxy. Trillions. So to focus on like the same kind of minute issue, I think that's why I enjoy so much about The Mandalorian is it kind of says, oh, you know what's happening in the rest of the galaxy? Doesn't matter. I'm focused on dude just trying to make his way through life in this tiny little corner on planets we've never talked about and people we've never seen before.
And
like you said, go ahead, please.
And the question is now, can they make that interesting without Grogu? And they had 2 episodes without him, or just 1 episode?
I think
it was 1 episode without Grogu, and it still worked very well. Of course, it was the Bill Burr episode, so that picked up the slack a lot. So, I guess the question remains: can they do it without Grogu? I think they can.
Raw star power, yeah, absolutely. Raw star power, absolutely. If you're talking about just like merchandising, they're definitely going to have to take a hit, and that's okay. They'll bring back Grogu whenever it's necessary. They'll take a look and be like, "Oh, wait, does a story need him? Great, go for it. Does a story not need him? Well, maybe we can throw in a little bit of transmission from Luke or something. There'll be some way."
Well, that's why I'm more in favor of miniseries popping up instead of like new series. Like I don't necessarily need 4 seasons of Luke Skywalker. I need 4 episodes. 4 episodes that give me Luke, because we were so deprived of him in the new sequel series movies. Wow, brain fart. I need Luke. I love him. He's my favorite protagonist ever.
But I guess my thing is that let's see the Thrawns. Let's see, if you want to bring in Ezra, bring in the Ezras, bring in honestly the Ahsoka Tano thing.
I'm all for that too. But I mean, I don't know. They gave me a glimpse of old Luke, and I want more. I think that's what it is.
Gotcha. I guess for me, I was looking at so many of the guest stars this season, and the Mark Hamill thing was great. Don't get me wrong, but I love seeing people like Michael Biehn coming in and basically being a gunslinger out in his luck. I loved seeing Bill Burr come back. I really did. I enjoyed Tamora Morrison. Honestly, when the first episode ends and he turns and it's his face, I was like, Boba Fett's in this season.
Yes.
And again, my girlfriend was like, who? I was like, Boba Fett. The actor describing that to her. I was like, she's like, how do you know it's him? I'm like, because that's the actor who played the characters back in the original prequel trilogy. And
right.
No say. I'm trying to think about, there's one more. Oh, Timothy Olyphant in that first episode.
Right.
And he's one of those guys. I mean, like, you're looking at a lot of these actors who've been able to show up here, and a lot of them have been very obvious that they're in the show. He's one of those characters that I thought for half a second we were going to go back to, like, I think that his Western show is Deadwood, I think, from way, way back when. Is it Deadwood? Yeah, it's Deadwood.
I'm not. Honestly, I've never heard of the guy until this season.
Have you ever seen the Hitman movie?
Which one?
The original one. The one that started it all.
I think I did. I don't remember it being too good. What, is he the Hitman?
He's the titular Hitman. Have you seen the fourth Die Hard movie?
I don't think so.
The last of the decent ones. I would say he's the big bad in the fourth Die Hard. So
yeah,
the guy's he's got some acting chops. He really does. Just it's a matter of giving him some on-screen time to actually showcase himself. So, but no, I will say I'm excited for season 3. I'm excited for the Book of Fett. I'm excited to see Bib Fortuna come back on screen for 30 seconds to get shot. You know, it was great, and honestly, that entire thing was almost a shot-for-shot remake of Luke coming down and kind of, you know, identifying himself in the first place. Or was it Leia when she's coming in as?
To be honest, I don't know why, but I didn't watch it to the very, very, very end. The credits rolled, and I was such on the high from Luke. I found out about it after the fact. Like when I first saw Boba Fett sitting on the throne with Ming-Na Wen, right?
Ming-Na Wen.
Yeah. Next to him, I thought it was a Photoshop. Like, this is where it could go. I had no idea. And then people were talking about it. I was like, oh, okay, cool, that happened.
That was the thing, though, too, is that honestly, and I'm sure we'll get more of this because, you know, it started with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, really, and kind of throwbacks to, you know, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of this. I was happy to sit through the credits, and I was thinking to myself, like, this is weird. The credits are actually rolling, and nothing's trying to be suggested or pushed on me for the next thing. Like, don't I want to watch Horse Sense from the 90s? And then this credit, and then it showed up, and I was like, okay, something else is happening here. And then it was Bib Fortuna, and I was like, there's a Boba Fett action that's going to happen here. And then it was bam, 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 and here we are. So, I mean, it was nice to see a loop closed there. But this is exactly my point. Boba Fett now, a man who's gotten books written about him, a man who's gotten, you know, all his materials show up, and now he actually at least gets a little bit of time in the sun.
Well, yeah, until this season, it was one of my biggest gripes about the new canon. Because until this season, Boba Fett is a character that got lost. You see him maybe 5 episodes in Clone Wars. And he doesn't do much. And then he shows up again. Well, if you watch the special edition, she shows up again in episode 4, 5, and 6. I only watched the theatrical cuts that I thankfully found on DVD somewhere. So he shows up for episode 5 for me. And then he goes and jokes, and then he falls in this oil pit, and I hear mentioned a few years back, there's a book where his armor was found in a Jawa, what are those things called? Sandcrawler, yeah. And then they used that in the first episode that the sheriff was rescued by the Jawas, and his armor was in that. So it confirms the book, the new canon book.
There was a Legends thing before that. Dengar. So the tall, lanky guy, bandages around his head. You see him a couple times in Clone Wars as well.
Yeah.
Dengar, first of all, has a nice little touch point with Han Solo, but Dengar, for whatever reason, goes back to Tatooine. And he gets screwed over by Jabba at one point, because of course he does. And he comes across, I think, Boba Fett in the desert, right? Actually, outside in the Dune Sea, just outside the Sarlacc pit, the pit of Carcoon. And the point of reference that gets made is, what was it? Oh my gosh, he blew up. His armor's in tatters, and he blows up the Sarlacc. He shoots a hole and it blows it apart.
Oh, I heard somewhere that he just simply crawled out of it. It's way more aggressive than that.
The one I'm thinking of is that he blew it apart. Now, of course, in the Mandalorian, we see that a great dragon comes in and somehow kills it, but whatever. And then there's another run-in between him and Han Solo, which is a really cool run-in between the two. But that goes into the whole idea that Boba Fett's he's not his real name, and there's a whole thing behind that. So
really?
Yeah, originally, actually, in the Legends canon, Boba Fett is an assumed name. His real name is Jaster Muriel. It's a long story. Yeah. It's a long story. Now they made canon. There's another guy in the universe named Jaster Muriel who's trading on the Boba Fett name, and there's this whole thing going on with it. But way too long to get into. That's another time.
That's interesting that they still used it, and they made it into something new. That's pretty cool. But I mean, stuff like that, and you and Austin know more about the Legends than I do, but I know there's a comic book out there where Boba Fett fights Darth Vader, and that's where the dent comes from. And how cool would that be to see that on the screen in some way, shape, or form?
I know what you're talking about. I haven't read the comic myself, but I know what you're talking about thanks to just like various media sites overall. I guess my question to a certain extent is, and this kind of goes back to my fan service question before, at what point does it stop becoming, though, a fantastic story, and instead focus more on these kind of like epic matchups that we've always been thinking about? Like, what happens if Admiral Akbar fights against Admiral Thrawn? Or if Saint Ishar...
I think that would be hilarious.
What's that?
I think that would be hilarious.
But that's kind of my point.
Admiral Akbar versus Thrawn.
First of all, Admiral Akbar would always be right. It would always be a trap. But the thing is that looking at a lot of the way that Star Wars has become, and this is a point that I'm both proud to be a member of the community and a little bit ashamed to, is that we've kind of become this almost min-maxing kind of questions back and forth. I can't tell you how many times people made comments before Mandalorian Season 2 came out, and it was, would Jin Jared, put him and Boba Fett in a room, who gets out alive? And it's like, who cares? Who cares? It'd be fantastic either way, don't get me wrong. And I'm not sure I can... so Austin might have sent you a picture just now, some beautiful little...
Let me... Hold on.
So I have a screen share over there.
I don't have anything. I was gonna check something because it says I have one of something, but that's from another friend. It's completely unrelated. He hasn't sent me anything. I don't know. Okay. He sent you something?
So, take a look at this right here. Oh, or not. Are we seeing any kind of... Here we go. This bad boy right here.
Is this supposed to be a Dark Trooper?
So it's supposed to be Phase 3, the Dark Trooper stuff later on here. So... concept sort of, but eventually the fan service behind this, like it kind of begs the question. Yes, sir.
You were choppy while you were sharing your screen.
I'm sorry about that. First, I'm actually doing it over here. So the fan service stuff is great. It is. I love seeing it. I love seeing all the callbacks. I love seeing all the little different notes and pieces that kind of come through. What my fear is we end up fixating on the people that we know in the first place instead of saying there's an entire galaxy. Let's talk about a Gamorrean. Let's talk about those pigmen that we see in Jabba's palace. Let's talk about even like the other bounty hunters, Forlum, Zuckuss, two guys in the background that literally get their own story in Legends, but in canon they're kind of just like there.
I see what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. I can see how too much fan service would be a bad thing, and focusing on good story is is better. And I mean that's exactly what's wrong with the sequel trilogy. They focus on too much trying to please the fans and not enough on the story.
Too much fluff, not enough stuff. Yeah.
I like that one.
Just came out at this moment. But like that's the kind of point. So we look at a lot of this kind of stuff later on, and I'm sure you focus on the Rise of Skywalker or Last Jedi when you kind of review stuff there. But so much in the last 10 or 15 years has been really fan service heavy, and I think that's really been doing a disservice. My hope, this goes back to what Austin was making a comment about at the top of the hour, is that we're not just going to see something that is a flash in the pan with The Mandalorian. Pedro Pascal, love him as an actor, saw him in Game of Thrones. I haven't watched Narcos yet, but anything I've seen Pedro Pascal in, I've enjoyed him.
You're not going to enjoy him in Wonder Woman 84 then.
Okay, well,
I saw that with my parents, and well, yeah, wow.
I'm going to let that one alone because I'm not even sure I'm going to even see 1984 because of all the ridiculous stuff I've seen already about it.
Oh, it's such a goofy movie. But okay, I'll give you a very quick. I'll sum it up real quick. It's a superhero movies from the 80s. If you can remember minus the Batman film.
So we're talking Wonder Woman from the TV show where she spins around as long as she's on ice.
It's not quite that bad, but I was watching it with my parents on New Year's Eve, and we all thought this is very Superman-esque. And like when I see very Superman-esque, Christopher Reeve Superman, you got that feeling.
But like, if that's the feeling of camp you're going for, that works.
Right, but it's such a disconnect. Wow, this is real. This one.
Go for it.
Yeah, but it's such a disconnect from the first Wonder Woman movie to this one. Like it's like night and day. And what's really fascinating, it's the same director.
There might have been pressure up top to kind of take a look at that though too. Like we're not again. One of my underappreciated Marvel movies overall is Thor Ragnarok.
I love that. That's my favorite one.
In cinematic form.
My favorite MCU movie.
No, I mean, I say favorite because I do have a soft spot for some other characters here and there. But that movie by itself, that was a comic book.
They were pulling directly from Jack Kirby's the illustrator, right?
I think so.
I think they were pulling like everything you see in there is like Jack Kirby.
It wouldn't surprise me, let's put it that way. Because I think Jack Kirby did a lot of the Doctor Strange stuff, and I think the original Dormammu kind of actually ended up getting shown a little bit. Galactus as well, kind of getting shown over there as well.
Right, but like the set design and everything of Thor Ragnarok, a lot of it was Jack Kirby.
Maybe.
I watched the special features. They talked to we pulled like directly from him, and they showed like some comic strips where it's like they pulled directly from his style.
But like to me, that is the thing that you should be doing. Then it should be we're focusing on a given piece and using that to inspire something else. It's like okay, so you had me on before to talk about my book, and I really appreciate that. But like when you start to write things, and I'm sure you've seen this yourself, you don't take an entire world and bring it in. You take, even to quote Inception, you take the look of that awning over there from that cafe. You take the taste of that fruit you remember that one time from that you had at your grandparents' house. You put it in there. You don't put everything in there because at that point it becomes artificial instead of authentic. And I think the thing that I'm worried about looking forward here is that authenticity by focusing on those same 50 stories. I honestly knew there was going to be a relationship between Kylo Ren and everyone else, and I was really afraid of it because it was now we're focusing again on the fact that we have a soap opera inside one family.
Right.
We have Han and Leia breaking up and getting back together and breaking up again because he's got to go and have his it's not a midlife crisis. His third quartile life crisis, running off with Chewie to kind of go and get the Falcon back and stuff like that, right?
Right,
but so why the heck you lost it? Like, you want to have like a Han Solo more story about that? Sure, on point. Because it's something that has an established field cred for us. But, and to kind of go way back to what we talked about the Luke thing, Luke, other than just being Space Jesus for Most of Legends.
Anakin. Oh, okay. You said Legends. I was gonna say Anakin's more space Jesus, but you said You said Legends, so I stopped myself. Right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Luke in Legends is a literal god. He does stuff that he. I think the last time he is legitimately almost depowered is in the Thrawn stuff in Legends, and that's a different episode altogether with us. Trust me, I'll be happy to come back and talk all about that. But it gets to the point that he has our Jedi Academy, but it's like hundreds of people, it's thousands of people, and he's the Yoda in the center of it, still somehow mysteriously young, having 95 kids, and he affects stuff on an order of just entire galaxies. Like I haven't even read some of the comics that he does, but it's literal galaxy-wide nonsense. So it's just I need to get a fix from somebody else, and I will say the thing that I've loved so much about these last 2 seasons is that it has given me that. It's given me the little people down to the side. We have the New Alliance guys. It wasn't Dave Filoni. Wasn't it Dave Filoni as one of the X-Wing pilots?
I don't think he was.
I don't think he was either. I can't remember who it was though. So I would try to embarrass myself by trying to identify who they were. But you have 2 guys just trying to go through their life, just like get stuff done. First, it's pull over as intergalactic cops, and then it's maybe we'll look the other way because you did X, Y, and Z. And at that point, and like that 10-minute interaction felt more authentic to me, especially when they brought it back later on to being like, "So, have you seen the Razor Crest around these parts?" And that's like, no idea. And the guy, of course, you can just see him being like flipping his little patrol book, being like, "Okay, I'm out of here. Forget it. I don't get paid enough for this." And just kind of like walking off. So,
I actually
those moments. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Of a question. Have you played Fallen Order?
I have watched enough of a playthrough of it, and I know the story behind it. I know there have been people that talked about it should have been, Cal, and I'm sorry. No.
No, I was just asking in general because, it's still Force users, but it's getting away from the Skywalkers, and is that something you would want to see expanded on? Because they did leave that open-ended.
I want more movies like Rogue One. I would see a movie about Bothan spies trying to slice the code to get to that second Death Star.
Yeah?
I'd love to actually see what a Bothan is, because all the Bothan stuff that we have right now may not even be what they look like. So who knows? Like, we have Legend stuff that looks one way, we have Ken stuff that looks another way.
Bothan was the one guy with the weird nose. Well, lots of things have weird noses in Star Wars, but I thought that...
It looks like someone took an Eevee and put a human face on it. The Pokemon Eevee, that is. So just to kind of give you an idea, so it's like very kind of long, almost elfin features, kind of very sharp pointed ears, and a nice thick ruff of fur around the face. Attractive as aliens go, if you go for that kind of thing.
I think we're talking about the same alien.
We probably are. But my point being, as we're kind of wrapping this back down the other direction, is that there is literally an entire universe. Why waste it on the same people? And I think that they've shown already that Clone Wars, for example, yes, you can use an established character as a jumping point. But, like, since Clone Wars, that wasn't an Anakin thing. That was Ahsoka finding out who she is and what she's become, and how her going out off into the world. Rebels barely touches on established characters, doesn't it? Yes, we have Jan Dardona as a nice little fan arc, and we have the idea here of having Ahsoka Tano as being a very active piece of it. But you care about the characters that are on the screen. You don't care about the ones that are being brought in secondary to it. Except for Thrawn. Thrawn's a badass, and I will never say anything different. So to me, I welcome all these new shows, but I welcome them with a little bit of unease. Because I would love to see Rogue Squadron be Wedge Antilles. I would Cassian be an awesome kind of like gritty, very like harsh kind of look at the dark side of the rebellion, because we need to see the stuff we talked about based on stuff that has lost sleep for him.
Right. That is a story I'd like to see, because without him saying a word, when he shoots that one guy in the back, you can just tell that he's tired of doing this.
I disagree. I think it's just one of the things that he just kind of goes cold, and that's like, you know what, this has got to get done. Just another pound of flesh. I got to, just another there's another thing on the bill.
Well, no, because his argument to Jin was, I have been doing this since I was 6 years old. I don't know. I think I just see a character that is he's tired of doing horrible things for a good cause.
I want to grab the lines a little bit. Okay, I'm tired of good rebels bad at him. Give me a conscientious objector story in the Empire. Give me a story or Jared Gerard.
Are you talking about like Benicio? No.
Benicio del Toro?
Yes. I stopped myself because I thought I was mentioning the wrong actor. I thought I was mentioning Antonio Banderas. Yeah, Benicio del Toro's throwaway character in Last Jedi. You're talking about characters like that where he's like live free, don't join.
Nah, he's not really a full character to me.
That's why I said he's a throwaway character. You could have had the exact same movie without him in it at all.
Oh yeah. But give me a character that we've seen in the first place. So General Veers, for example, is not a bad guy in Legends. He's not even a bad guy in canon. He's a guy who's a professional, who's doing what he's supposed to do, because that's the way of things. He's been through some dark stuff where the rebels have done horrible things that have caused him to have this entire idea. So I guess my final word on the entire matter is, it's a galaxy long ago, far, far away. Look at all the movies we have here on Earth. Why can't we have the same plurality when we have the availability of having an entire encyclopedia of people and species and events and characters to talk about? So you asked me at the top of the show, am I excited? I will be excited, I think, when we see that The Mandalorian isn't just a space western. I'll be excited when we see that Cassian becomes that kind of dark A-team. That the Bad Batch this isn't just the A-team. Maybe it's like the Losers, for example. But I'll be excited when we have an opportunity to see the Star Wars that was kind of was promised to us back when Disney bought it back in 2011, 2012. So, and it's a very much one of those things where it's like, trust, but verify. I hope you understand what I mean by that.
I know exactly what you mean by that.
But forgive me, I got to get going here in a minute or two. Do you have any kind of burning questions about that you want to hear perspective on?
No. I'm not going to hold you up. I can't think of anything because, I mean, in general, we could probably just talk about Star Wars forever, but...
And you know what? If your listeners want to go into that, we can definitely do it. We can go tech specs from, Rebellion games. We want to go 90s games. Dude, I have an entire episode for Rebellion. We can do it.
All right, cool.
But I will say, it has been really great being on here with you. Just at the last time when you had me on here, I really appreciate that. When you do get a chance to read the book, you got to let me know what you think.
Yes.
You got to let me know what you think. So,
and if you would like to get his book, I'm going to put it in the description again because the first 5 chapters are captivating. It's just I'm a lazy, casual reader.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I had a friend of mine up in Canada who said he sat down on a Friday and was like, sit here like 6 hours later, man, it's an effing good book. It's an effing good book. So, hopefully you find the same enjoyment out of it. But honestly, to your listeners, I mean, this is a guy to listen to. This is definitely something to kind of pay attention to. And if you haven't seen The Mandalorian just yet, first of all, what are you doing?
We spoil a lot of it. If you watch this and you haven't seen The Mandalorian, everything was basically spoiled for you.
Oh yeah, but for all the right reasons.
Yes.
All the right reasons.
Maybe you're one of those people that doesn't care about spoilers, and spoilers actually makes them want to see it more.
It won't matter, trust me. Even the spoilers, even if everything was spoiled, the series is good enough to watch and rewatch. Because of all the little details here and there.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a lot of tender love and care put into The Mandalorian.
Definitely. But Steve, I really appreciate you having me on, sir.
Yeah. Thanks for coming back on. Do you want people to find you on social media, or you just want them to buy your book?
If you really feel desperate enough that you have to find me on social media, I have a very intermittent Twitter account that's building up a community right now. So you can find me at the real K Avard, AVARD. I have an Instagram too, same thing, but you know what? I barely touch it. I love sharing my stories with you guys. Sometimes my thoughts are a little bit too silly to kind of bring up. But you want to hit me up on there, reach out to me for Star Wars questions or just kind of chatting, by all means, go for it. So, yeah, first do no harm, at the real K Avard, whatever you want to do, go for it. Heck, I'm sure if you guys reach out to Steve here, if you're on Discord, reach out to Steve. He can put you in touch with me too.
Yeah.
So, but my pleasure, man.
Yeah, thanks again. Thank you for watching. If you like what you saw, like it. If you think other people will like it, share it. If you really liked it, hit the subscribe button. Thank you again for watching and listening, and live your imagination.